Yeah, hello everyone and welcome back. So today we are going to discuss the another interview question series, and today we are going to discuss about a front-end developer profile. And like one of my friend has recently shared me all the questions which he has been encountered in like TCS organization for a front-end developer. So like he was having almost 3+ year of experience, and he appeared for a front-end developer in which the mostly focus was like CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, and also Angular. So these were the skills for him. Okay, so guys, let's start our session. And the first question he encountered was like, tell me about yourself. Okay, and then directly the interviewer jumped to the technical question, and the technical question was from CSS. So the question was like, what are the difference between em, rem, percentage, and pixel in CSS? And also he asked, when do you use each of them? So I believe this is a very important question, and like if you are preparing for a front end developer, then these should be known to you, because somehow we use all this property in our front end development, but when it comes to the theory part, we might be not able to explain all this into a very detailed manner. So guys, here I have tried to bring out in a detailed manner, and you can pause this like video, and also you can take a note so that it will be handy for you when you will prepare for the interview. Okay, yeah, so the first is like pixel, px. So pixel is about to use when you have to use a absolute unit. Okay, and pixel is like a fixed size, which means it does not scale with the user setting or the parent element, right? So it does not depend on the parent element, so it is kind of a fixed layout. So here in the right side, you can see an example. Like in the CSS file, we do like like font size 16 px. So px represent the pixel. It means the font size is now fixed of about 16 pixel. The same goes with the padding, 20 pixel. It means now these padding and font size is like fixed with this value. So when you have to work on a fixed layout, and you don't want to scale up with the user setting or the parent element, then go with the pixel. Okay, so if you want a perfect design, or you want a precise control, or you want uh yeah or you want like fix scaling of your page, then go with the pixel. So this is good for borders, spacing, images, or canvas based layout. Okay, so one drawback for the pixel is like it is not responsive, right? It means it will not scale based on the user preferences, like browser zoom in or zoom out, or the font size settings, right? So you should use pixel when you want a fixed size of layout, right? So this is about the pixel, and in this manner only you have to reply to the interviewer, so that the interviewer will know that you have a very depth knowledge, where you have to explain about the pixel, when you have to say that where you can use it, and also you have to bring out one like disadvantage or the advantage of each of this. Okay, so next is em. So em is like relative to the parent element font size. So em is like relative unit. It means it will change as per the some like reference. So here reference is the parent element font size. So one em equals to current element or inherited font size. So when Okay, so like when you are going to use this, so you are going to use for spacing that should scale with the parent font size. So here the relative is parent font size. So if you want to scale up as per the parent font size, then you should use em. Okay, and this is used for component with the internal scaling. So for example, in the right side you can see padding 2em. So 2em means 32 pixel. Okay, so this is equals to 32 pixel, and this is relative to the parent font size. All right, and the drawback of em is that can be confusing in nested element where values multiply unexpected. So because means it will be very hard to track, and also it is very hard to like design and to put the perfect number for, or the value for the each property of the css if you are putting em, because sometimes it become very confusing if you are using the nested elements. Okay, so in this case this is like one of the drawback for using em. So mostly you have to go with the em if you want to scale up as per the parent element. All right, so next is rem. So rem is like relative to root element font size. So earlier em was relative to the parent element. Now rem is relative to root element. Okay, so like it is relative to the root html font size. So one rem equals to font size of html. So in the right side you can see the font size is 60 pixel. So in the header h1 we have written font size equals to 2 rem, which is equals to 32 pixel. All right, so this is about rem. So when to use this rem? When you want consistent sizing across the app, okay, and you want better for responsive and accessible design. Okay, so this is quite responsive because when you scale up or when you do your browser zoom in zoom out or you change the screen layout, then the size of these elements wherever rem has been applied will be scale up as per relative to the root element, right? Yeah, so when you want to means keep the size and the layout consistent over whole application, then you can choose rem. Okay, so next is percentage. So this is very important because if you want yeah, and this is like relative unit. So it's depend on the parent element size, right? And this is used in width, height, font size, padding, etc. So here in the right you can see one example, like width equals to 50 percentage. Okay, so 50 percentage of what? 50 percentage of parent element. Okay, and again in the font size there is 120 percentage. So like 120 percentage of what? 120 percentage of parent font size, right? Yeah, so this is about using a percentage. So when you should use percentage? For a fluid layout and responsiveness. So when you want your layout should be responsive, it means the layout should scale up or it should get changed as per the user yeah, so like as per the user preferences, or if you are zooming in or zooming out your browser, then you should go with the percentage. So here the font size is relative to the parent element. So this is very important point. Okay, now next we are going to see like a diagram where I have added in a very short like conclusion that when to use which unit. For example, px, that is pixel, you can use, and it is an absolute type because this is fixed, right? So this is relative to the screen resolution. So with the screen resolution this will get fixed, and this is best for precise or any fixed spacing. Okay, now next is em. So em is of relative type. It means relative means this will change with relative to something. So this em is relative to the parent font size, and this is best for component based scaling. And rem is relative, and this is relative with like root font size. Okay, and where you want to put consistency in the whole application, then you should go with rem. And next is percentage, and this is also relative type, and this is relative to parent element. Where you want a full responsive, then you should go with the percentage because it will take the percentage of the parent element, right? Yeah, so this is a small diagram where you can understand in a very clear manner that when to use what. So in this manner only you have to explain so that the interviewer will know that you have a very detailed and depth manner about all these properties. Because if you are a front end developer, then you have worked on this, but you should also know how to explain this, how to represent this in the front of interviewer so that he will get impressed with you. Okay, so the next question was, how does CSS specificity work and what happens when multiple conflicting style applies. So this is very important, because in our day to day life, if you're a developer, if you're a front end developer especially, then you have seen that there can be chance that some yeah so there can be chance that like multiple rules will be applied to a particular style. So in this manner you may get confused that which style will get a preference first, or which will be applied in a priority basis. So actually there is a rule. Okay, so CSS specificity determines that which rule wins when a multiple rules apply to the same element. So let's say that there is a div, and in the div a multiple rules are getting applied for applying for a CSS, then which rule will win? So that is called as a CSS specificity. Okay, and in this specificity there has a actually labels. So there is a four label. Okay, and each label has a numerical score. For example, A, B, C, D. Okay, these are four labels which decide that which rule will get the preference or which will have the priority. For example, in the diagram you can see that of label A. Okay, so label A is of inline style. If you are using any inline style in an element, then that is of label A. It means it will be have the highest priority. Okay, so let's say that you have created one class or the CSS property as a class in a CSS file, and you are trying to apply in a div, and again you are trying to write inline style to that particular div only, then inline style will have the highest priority because inline styles are label A. Okay, for example, here you can see. Okay, so inline style we write with the style equals to, and we provide the property and the value, right? So this has the okay, so this has the highest priority. Now the second label is B, so which are of type ID. So whatever style we try to add to the ID, and if inline is not present, then the label B will have the priority. Okay, so for example, like has header, so this is the ID, right? So if you try to add any like CSS property to this ID, then this will be get priority if inline style is absent. Okay, so but this is stronger than class and tag. Okay, so next is a label C, in which classes, attribute, pseudo classes come into the picture. It means example dot button. Okay, type equals to text, and colon h over. So these are some example of classes, attribute and pseudo classes which are of label C. So and this is common in most CSS. Wherever we apply, this is very common. So if the above two labels are not present, like inline style and the ITC style are not present, then this label C will have the priority. Okay, and the fourth is label D, which has element or pseudo element like div. H1 is like header, and like colon colon before. Okay, this has the lowest priority. Okay, yeah, so these are the four labels. And so yeah, so guys, you have to explain in this manner only that we have a four label A, B, C, D, and these have the four labels with this example, and this has this priority. So in this manner the interviewer will know that you have a very depth knowledge about this. It means you have done the work. It means you can decide and you can understand the application, and yeah, and also you can able to debug that why and when, if any conflict will come, then which will have the more priority. Okay, so this will help in fixing the bugs, or maybe help in debugging if you know the yeah, so like if you know the priority, that which label will have the more priority when. Okay, so next slide, I have added one example. For example, so rule says when conflicting style applies. So let's say that when there are multiple conflicting is coming to a particular element, then then like which style or the which rule will be applied. Okay, if multiple rules apply to an element, then more specific selector wins. Okay, if same specificity, okay, if there is the same specificity, then later in the CSS wins. Inline inline style beats style from style or external CSS. If there is any inline style, then we know that inline style will have the more priority. Again, if you are using like important, then important overrides everything. Okay, in CSS property, after the value, if you write important, then this will get applied. Okay, so these are the some rules, and if there is more conflicting style comes, then you can decide that which will be applied. For example, here, like header h1 class and title is there, right? So this class title with the id main title, and is the here, and like hello is the text, and again the h1 header is getting, tag is getting close. So now there are some style properties are there, or the style rules are there, right? For example, header h1 equals to color black, and okay, and you can see the label. Okay, the label value, basically the label is score, where a is 0, b is 0, c is 0, and d is 1. Okay, d is 1 means it has a very low priority. Again, dot title. Okay, this is class label. In the class label you see color blue. Okay, and again a b c d, so c having 1. Okay, so this is label c priority. Now id main title color red, and here you can see the id in the b label, right? So therefore b is 1. Okay, label b is 1 and other are 0. Here you can say that color red wins due to the highest specificity, because this one, the id will have the higher label. That's why this, among all the rules, this id rule will be winning, and then your this header will applied with the red color. Okay, so it will not applied with the black color or the blue color, but it will be applied with the red color, because this is applying with this id. Okay, id color red, and we know that id has specificity with the label b. Here you can see, right, id b header. Okay, and here you see that a b and b has 1. So here the id has the highest priority. In case if we added any style in this div, only in this line, if we have added, if we are adding style equals to color red, then color, let's say yellow, then at that time yellow will win. Okay, the yellow color will win, and then here this h1 tag will be with the yellow color, because we know that the inline is having the highest label, label a, right? So currently inline is not present, but the highest priority is the id, so id wins. Okay, yeah, so in this way it wins. So in the exam, or sorry, in the interview, you can give this small example also, so that if you, yeah, so like if you're able to explain in this manner, then he will understand that you have a good knowledge or in-depth knowledge about this topic. Okay, so next was what is box model in css. Okay, so this is yeah, so in this he want to know whether you have the in-depth knowledge about this this section or not. So css box modeling is a fundamental concept, okay, that describes how every html element is rendered as a rectangular box, and how its size and spacing are calculated. Yeah, so this question will be not asked in every interview, but yeah, but if any interviewer want to know about that, about the fundamental concepts, that whether you know about these fundamental concepts or not, then only they can ask. Otherwise I believe these questions will not be asked in every interview. But yeah, yeah, but like it is, yeah, it is like better to know like everything in the interview, right? Yeah, so model box structure, where each element box consists of 4 layer. Okay, so the innermost is the content. Okay, so content is where actually the image or the text is present, and where we define the width and the height. Okay, and after that the outermost is the padding. So padding is the space between the content and the border. Okay, so padding is nothing but it is a space between the border and the content, so it increases the size of the box without affecting the layout. Okay, and yeah, and the next outermost is border. So border is the edge around padding content. Okay, so border is nothing but it is the edge. Okay, and then comes the margin. So margin is like a space outside the element. Okay, so it pushes the element away from the other, and it can collapse with the adjacent margin. So yeah, these boxes layers are important, because with this manner you will able to design a proper layout. Okay, yeah. So this is the box model in CSS. Now the next question was, how can you make a web page responsive without using frameworks like Bootstrap? Because nowadays I have seen these questions are very much asked, because nowadays everyone is going with some of the framework in the front end development, but still they want to know that whether you know the fundamental concepts or not, because without using framework you can implement this or not. There may be chance that in a real project you will not get chance to implement in this manner, I mean that without using the framework, but still in the interview it is very important to know about all these things, how you can make a web page responsive without using any framework. Okay, yeah. So first you can use relative unit instead of fixed unit. So this is very important. So you should not use px. Okay, so you should not use pixel. You should go with the other relative units, and totally depend on that unit you want to use. Yeah, I mean that you have to choose that unit as per your requirement, because here you have to use relative unit. So there are like percentage, there are like em, they are like rem, right? So all these you have to use as per your requirement, but you have to like avoid px. Okay, so that is pixel, because we know that pixel having a fixed size, so it will not scale up as per the user changing screen, right? So em rem for the font size and spacing, and percentage vw vh for width and height. Okay, so these things you can go for. This will help you to create a responsive layout without using any framework. For example, here in the image you can see dot container, here in the container properties width, and here we are using 80 percentage. So this is 80 percentage of what? This is 80 percentage of the parent element, that is the relative to parent element, right? And here the font size is 1.2 rem. Okay, so it is relative to, yeah. So like this we can use. Next way you can use css media query. Yeah, so this is also very important, because earlier when we don't have any much framework, then we use then we use like css media query. And nowadays, like some of the applications which does not want any framework, then they go with the media query, and this is also very important. So media query allows you to apply style based on device width and height. So here you can see that in the body, the font size is 1 rem, and here in the media query, you are adding that if this minimum width is 768 pixel, then apply these property or this css property to the body. If the minimum width achieve is 1024 pixel, then apply this body css property, like make the font size is 1.4 rem. So in this manner, yeah, but this is like tedious job, because you need to means adjust and see with this pixel that how much size you have to apply and all. Yeah, so nowadays the framework does a very good job for us, but still as a developer you should know, if you don't have any framework, then how you should go with the basic. Yeah, so you can say that you can use a media query, and then you can provide one example that how to use media query at the rate media, and then minimum width is like something pixel, then apply this property, and if the minimum width is this, then apply this property. So in this manner you can explain. The third point is that you can use the flexbox or css grid for layout. So these are some like modern layout modules for powerful and responsive. Okay, so here in the example you can see container display flex wrap. Okay, and the item flex 130 pixel. So in this way this will make your layout more responsive without using any framework. And also you can use css grid. Okay, like we have one grid. Okay, so this is like dot grid, and here you can apply the properties. All right, yeah. So these are the some way by which you can make your web page responsive. And the another way is like try to make images and video responsive. So ensure the media is scaled properly in a small viewports also. Okay, where you can add image, video property, you can give maximum with 100 pixel and height auto. Okay, and also you should avoid using fixed positioning and width. You means you can avoid pixel px basically. Okay, like this. So instead of this you can use a percentage like max width 100 percentage, and position should be relative not absolute, because with the pixel it goes absolute. Okay, but you should avoid using px, mostly you should try with the percentage. Yeah, so these were some steps where you can bring out your spring as a responsive page as a responsive by avoiding any framework. So next question was like, what is the difference between where, let, and constant? And this question is very important. I have seen in almost every interview this question has been asked. And in this means yeah. So like in this, I will try to explain you and make the things clear when to use which, and by providing you the points which you can explain. The where, let, and constant keyword in JavaScript are used to declare variable, but they differ in scope, hosting, and also like redeclaration, and also like mutability. So all these are used as a variable, but it totally depend on your requirement, and with the scope where you want to use, and also hosting and the redeclaration and the mutability, it's all differ. For example, here the keyword where. Okay, so if you use like variable to, yeah, so if you use where to declare a variable, then this scope will be inside a function. And if you use let, then it will be of like block scope only. Okay, so let's say that okay, so like block scope means if you are using any if condition, if and the bracket. Okay, and you are closing the bracket, and inside if you're using let and constant, then the scope of that let and the constant variable will be inside if block only. It will not go outside. So it means if you try to access from outside, then the scope will not be there. It will be like reference error. Okay, it will give reference error. Basically you need to tell that scope of the where is function scope, and let and constant is block scope. Okay, for example, here I have given an example. Like there is a function test, and so test function has one if block. In the if block, we have a where x equals to 10, let y equals to 20, and constant z equals to 30. And after if block, we are printing console.log x. So in this, we are getting 10 because x has a function scope, and inside function we are trying to access, then it is fine. Now console.log y, but here y is a let. Okay, so let has a blocked scope, and we are trying to access this y. Yeah, so like y variable which is of let type, it is giving us an error saying a reference error, because this y is actually a blocked scope. So the scope of this y is not outside if block, and we are trying to access this outside the if block. Okay, so we will get an error. Again the z, so z is a constant, so again we cannot access this outside this if block, because constant and let has a actually a blocked scope. So outside block, this if block, it will not be accessible, right? Yeah, so like I hope you understand this. So next is the hosting. So hosting in JavaScript is a default behavior of moving the declaration. Okay, so it is not actually the initialization but a declaration to the top of the current scope. Okay, so where is hosted and initialized as undefined, and let and constant are hosted but not initialized, so they are in a temporary red yeah, so temporary dead zone until declare. Okay, so for example, here you can see that console log a. Okay, and this is variable a equals to 5, so this will give us undefined. Okay, because here, so what it will happen, the browser will interrupt this. Okay, so interpret this, and with the variable a, what will happen, with the variable a, the declaration variable a is hosted to the top but not initialized, so this code will be interrupted like this. first like variable a. So variable a will move top of the scope, and then console log a, and then a equals to 10. So in this we are accessing log a. So a is undefined because here a is declared. Okay, so like it will not give any compile time error, but if you try to log it, then it will give undefined. Now same for let and constant. No, it will not work same for let and constant. So let and constant are hosted, but they are in a temporal dead zone from start of the block until declaration is uncounted. So here declaration is or initialization is doing later. It means that accessing them before the declaration result is reference error. So here we are declaring later, then it means it will not move ahead. Okay, so it will not go to the top. So that's why we'll get a reference error, because here b is not referenced. Okay, it is not able to find the reference of b and c is constant and b is let. Okay, but in case of variable a, this is hosted and initialized as undefined. Okay, so but for let and constant, it will be hosted, but it will be not be initialized. Okay, so that's why in the let and constant we will get reference error. Okay, so this is the difference between variable, let, and constant. So you need to decide that in which situation or in which business logic this will work for you, and in which situation you have to work means work like store the variable value in which variable. Okay, so yeah. So the another is like reassigning and like mutability. So here you see that variable can be reassigned, yes. Let can be reassigned, yes. And constant, no, constant cannot be reassigned because constant is something fixed. So when to use what? Use constant by default unless you plan to reassign the variable. So if you don't have any plan to reassign any variable with a new value, then you should go with a constant and use let if the variable value will change. If you know that the value of that variable is going to change in future, then always use let. Okay, and avoid using variable in modern like javascript, I mean es6 plus, due to unpredictable behavior of this. Okay, host in a scope. So you can go with the let and constant. Okay, let if you want to see, if you see that the value of the variable is going to change again and again, then use let. Okay, otherwise you can use constant. So here for constant object equals to name assist, and if I try to change inside the object, then I can change, I mean object dot name equals to Bhagat, then name will be changed to Bhagat. So this is allowed with the constant, but directly reassigning to the constant is not allowed. Okay, assignment to the constant variable is not allowed. But inside any object we can change the property value of that object, so that okay, so that is allowed, right? So directly reassigning is not allowed to the constant. Yeah, so like I hope you got this point. And the another point is like declare yeah, so another point is like redeclaration. So in this, like variable can be redeclared in same scope, yes. Let and constant will not be redeclared in the same scope. For example, variable x, okay, where x equals to 1 and where x equals to 2, it is fine because this is where type, so we can redeclare in the same scope. But for let and constant, it is not allowed. Okay, so this is very important point, that redeclaration is allowed or not allowed. So here you see let y equals to 1, let y equals to, it will give a syntax error. Again for constant, same. Okay, yeah, so this is the difference between where, let, and constant. So next question is also very important. So what is the difference between equal equals to and equals to in a JavaScript, and why does this matter? So equal equals to is actually a loose equality, and equals to is a strict equality. Okay, so both are used for checking the equality, but there is a huge difference in this. So in the first case, where we are using equals to, here perform type, yeah, so here perform like type quotient. So it tries to convert operand to a same type before comparing. So this can lead to unexpected match. For example, here you can see this is 5, okay, as a string equals to 5 number. So here you see that first one is a string is trying to check the equality with a number 5. So what it does, if you are using equals to, then string 5 is goes to number 5. It means string 5 will convert to number 5, and then it will compare with 5 number. It means it will come true. Again, false equals to 0. First false will goes to 0. It means false will convert to 0, and 0 equals to 0. So here again true will come. But if you see the type, so it is not checking the type, right? So this, yeah, so like that's why we call it is a loose equality. And again, null equals to undefined, this will again true, because yeah, so this is a special case. Yeah, so that's why we call that this is a loose equality. And now for equals to, there is a no type conversion. It means it is very strict. It will so the value must be of same type. If it is same type, then only it will provide true, otherwise it will give false, right? So this is much safer and predictable, because here you can see the same thing. If we compare with equals to 3 times equals to, then it will say false, okay. But earlier it was saying true, because this string was getting converted to number 5, then so that's why it is giving true. But in the second case, where we are using 3 times equals to, it says false. Again, false 3 times equals to 0, it says again false. Null like 3 times equals to undefined, false. So in all these cases it will come false, because it is type safe. It is checking if, so yeah, so basically in the second part it checks the type also and the value also. But in the first type, it's only checks the value, and it converts the uh, first variable to the second value type, okay, and then it compare. So if you want very strict equality, then go with this equals to, right? So this is very important, because using equals to can lead to bugs that are very hard to detect, okay, especially when comparing the user input API data or any optional values. For example, if user input equals to false, so this might execute even if user input is an empty string, it or it is 0 or null. In this all these cases, this will be true. So here the strict validation is not done, right? So that's why as a developer we should always go for triple equals to check, until or unless if there is any specific reason to use double equals to. But you should always try to check with like triple equals to for providing a strict like validation, okay. Yeah, so this is very important question, and you should explain in this manner only, so that he will know that you have a very depth, I mean, understanding about this, because this is a most used functionality as a front-end developer. The seventh question asked was, what are Angular lifecycle hooks, and explain a few with example. So in this, you need to explain all the like hook cycles. But here mostly they ask the common ones, right? Ng on it, ng do check, ng view after init, ng on destroy. So you should also explain all this little bit, like ng on init is called once after first ng on change, okay. Ng do check is a custom change detection. So whenever there is a change detection, then this ng do check will get called. Again, ng after view init, this will be called after component view and the child views get initialized. Again, ng destroy is for cleanup logic. Let's say if like before destroying the component, if you want to do some cleanup or any closing of any services call or database call, then all that logic should go inside ng on destroy. So these are some lifecycle hook methods are present in Angular, which is used for specific use case. So you should understand this, that when you should go with which like Angular lifecycle hook method. Yeah, so guys, if you want to know about all this lab cycle hook method, then I have already uploaded the whole series in which I have explained all the life cycle hooks in a very depth manner and also with an example. So you can go back to my channel and you can have the look of all this in the Angular playlist. Yeah. So here for now I will, so just I have added all this, but if you want to check more, then yeah, then you can go and check back my playlist of Angular. So next question was, what is the difference between ng on change and ng do check? So this is also important because see, there sometimes the interviewer wants to know and want to put some like lifecycle hooks difference so that they will understand that you actually know that which lifecycle method is used for which purpose, because that will help you to develop the business logic, because in Angular it is very important to know about all the Angular lifecycle hook methods, because in the Angular each lifecycle hook methods is a very important and a very like useful way to interact with the components, to transfer the data and to write a business logic. So the interviewer wants to know, so he may put like any two or any three like Angular lifecycle hook methods, and he will ask that what is the difference between this and that. So in his case he got about ng on change and nd do check. Okay, so ng on change is called when at the rate input property changes. Okay, so yeah, so like so like whenever there is a data change is happening from like parent to child component, then at the rate input like decorator is used, right? So if there is any change uh, in the change in the input property, then ng on change lifecycle hook method will be called automatically, and ng do check is called on every change deduction runs that can be used as a custom change deduction. Okay, so you should always yeah, so here the main point is that you should be very careful while writing the business logic inside ng do check, because this ng do check will be called every time when there is a change deduction. So you should not do an API call inside ng do check, because there may be chance that if you don't need to do like API call, then also because this ng2 check will be called every time if there is a change deduction in your component. So you should be very careful. Okay, so you should use carefully, and ng on change, as I told, it can be called automatically by Angular when Angular detects any change in the at the rate input property value. All right. Yeah, so next question was, how does Angular change detection work? So here he wants to know about some internal working. So Angular uses John based mechanism. So he has means it has some like John that .js file which is used to detect the changes. So basically it checks the component template when there is an event occur, okay, with a click event or a input change box, or if there is a http response is received, or with the timer where we use the set time fires. Okay, or it compares the current state with the previous state in like unidirectional data flow. So in these ways it tries to use the John based mechanism to detect the change, and then as per the change detection it calls automatically the Angular lifecycle hooks. Okay, so next question was that what is the difference between observable and promise? Yeah, so this is also very important, and in almost every interview you can see, if there is an interview with the Angular, then you will see these questions. So so here the multiple values. So in like observer you can pass multiple values, but in case of promise it is not allowed. At a time only one value can be passed in promise, but in observable you can pass multiple values. So like observable is a lazy execution. It means lazy execution means until or unless a scribe is not called it will not work. But like process, yeah, so like in promises it is not lazy execution. Actually, as we use promise without subscribe also, it will execute. All right. We can cancel observable. Yes, we cannot cancel promise. Once the promise is execute, we cannot cancel it, but we can cancel observable with the unsubscribe. Okay. And like operators like map, filter, and all things we can operate in observer to transform the data or to work with the response which we get in the observable, but we cannot operate any functions in promise. Okay, yeah, so these are some basic differences you can put it if they ask about observable and promise. So next question was, how do you share data between component in Angular? So there are like multiple ways to share the data between component and Angular, because in Angular this is very important concept of sharing the data between component, and this is the must question is asked. So let's say if you have a two component, and first component is parent and child, and if you want to transfer from parent component to a child component, then we use at the rate input decorator, and with the help of input decorator we transfer a data from parent to child component. And now if you want to transfer from child to parent, then in this case we use at the rate output decorator, and also we use event emitter. So basically event emitter class will emit the value, and at the rate output decorator will receive it, and then in this manner you will able to yeah, so you will able to transfer data from child to parent. And the next is between the sibling components. So let's say that you have a two component which are not related, okay, which is not underrelated, then you can use a service. So you can transfer the data from one component to a service class, you can store into a variable, and then further the second component can take that data which is stored in a service class. Okay. And the another ways are also there, like again, if you want to transfer from child to parent, then you can use at the red view decorator. Okay. And then there are more ways. Okay, there are more ways where you can share the data. Yeah, so these are some basic ways by which you can share data between component in Angular. So yeah, so guys, if you want to know about this topic in a very depth manner, then I have already created one lecture regarding how to share data between the component in Angular, where I have explained all the ways in a very depth manner. Okay. So next question was, what is lazy loading and how do you implement it? Okay, so in Angular, we don't like load all the component in the starting, but we load it when the demand come. So that feature is only called as a lazy loading. Okay, so lazy loading is used for performance optimization, because here we don't load all the components, all the images, all the data in the first place, but we load it whenever it is needed. Okay, so rather than all at a once in the initial page load. So for this, here you can use the routing. In the route array we provide the path and then a load children, and then we can load a particular module, and in this manner, yeah, so whenever, let's say that in the path, if admin comes, then it will load that particular admin module or a admin component. So in this way you can perform a lazy loading with the route module or with the help of routing. Yeah, so this is also like very important topic. So why to use lazy loading? Because see, so there will be one more question, that how to optimize your Angular application, how to increase the performance of your Angular application. So this is the one point where you can share, you can use lazy loading. Okay, so why to use lazy loading? Because it initialize your means application loading time in the initial load, so it can faster the initial load time. Okay, it can reduce the bandwidth uses, it can improve the performance. Okay, it can be have a better user experience because the loading time will go down, because we are loading the component, because Angular is a single page component, right? So if you want to go to a next page, then you then you don't have to load it in the initial time. Just you click on that with the routing, it will detect that okay, this component Okay, so this route is there in the URL, then it will load that particular component. So like that it works. So lazy loading is used for basically improving the performance, and also it will load your application much faster in the initial load time. Yeah. So the next question was some coding round where he got one write a code to create a login form which contained name, password, and as an input field, and also with a sign in button. Yeah, so something like that he has to create. So in this he has to use a notepad, or yeah, or like any ID also you can use it. So totally depend on your availability. So yeah, so whatever you can use, so better I will say go with ID, because in that ID at least you will see that if you get any compile time error, right? But in a notepad if you write, then you should must know all the code perfectly. So better I will suggest go with one ID. Okay, there you have to write this HTML code, okay, where you have to create one form, this form, and a submit button. And also means once you complete it, then they may ask you to add some validation also. Let's say that username should be minimum of like 4 characters to the 15 character. Okay, more than 4, okay, so like if there is any less character enter than 4, then it should provide like validation error, or the character should not be more than 15, otherwise so validation errors. Yes, this kind of like further questions he got in that. Okay, and also and also other questions that change the color of this div and all. Okay, yes, all this may questions come. Yeah, so try to, yeah, so this, yeah, so like just I will tell say that just try to see and like just practice if you can build up some pages or anything like. Yeah, so you must know how to create form and all, yeah, buttons and all. Yeah, like this they ask, so that they just check your whether you are used to of these creating forms without going to any Google or web, because as a developer we know we quietly and mostly use the internet to write the code, but in the interview internet will not be there, I mean to use to write a code. But yeah, so these things you should practice at least, so that you can so that you know to write the code. Okay, yeah, so these were some questions which he encountered as a front-end developer. And already I told that he having experience 3.5 year approx, but these questions you can get till like 4 years 5 years I believe. Okay, yeah, so thank you and have a nice day.